The journey of life. A road ingrained with the footprints, hoof marks and flipper stains of every living creature on the planet. But how different are the journeys of mice and men, of wasp and crab? Once we're born, the race is on to find a mate and earn ourselves a little genetic immortality before it's all over. Each and every species on our planet has evolved a different walk of life, but the goal is always the same, and it all begins with birth. A birth is a cause for celebration, and the higher up the evolutionary ladder you are, the more elaborate that celebration can be. Animals need to breed. It's the fundamental force that drives our world. And so from the lowliest amoeba to the most exalted baboon, everything alive has experienced that momentous occasion of being born. It's a big moment for anyone. But how you're born, who you're born to, and how you cope with growing up is very different for all of us. It all depends on who and what your parents are. Babies are everywhere. And they have a dramatic effect on the behaviour not only of their parents, but also of those who come in contact with them. It's amazing that most kids aren't simply scared to death by this sort of thing. But it's not just hormones that can make women broody. Babies do it too. And constantly faced with these products of procreation, it's no wonder that the maternal instinct can run riot. Feeling broody is natural. Everyone wants to hold that cute bundle of fluff, fur or flabby skin. When the hormones kick in, babies become must-have items. When it comes to making babies, male animals are driven by a different agenda to the females. For the girls, it's quality that counts. But boys are driven to breed with as many mates as possible. Women need to be cautious when selecting a mate. But for men, any fertile female will do. So is his behaviour thoughtless, vulgar, inconsiderate, or just plain good sense? When it comes to sowing wild oats, it's the same story for us and the rest of the animal world. Females of all species are usually a little more discerning. They want their babies to have the best chance in life, and this means they need the best possible genes from their males. Females can tell a geek from a hunk at vast distances. And in the case of peacocks, the eyes really do have it. Females will mate with the peacock whose feathers reveal the largest eye spots. And girls, it seems size really does matter. Offspring of the biggest and best males grow faster and are more likely to survive. Biologists who measure symmetry in animals think that there may be a genetic basis to feminine taste. Being lopsided may mean that you've not been able to deal with stresses such as resisting disease and competing for food. In short, the most symmetrical males are probably best suited to their habitat. Females don't have the option of lab testing their prospective mates, so such signs of physical condition provide an instant solution. It means that humans, like other animals, have to be fit to attract a mate and make babies. For most animals, making babies seems as easy as falling off a log. And all the animals on our planet adopt one of two strategies. Some animals go for the big bang, where quantity counts more than a gorgeous date. For the particularly ugly sockeye salmon, it's probably better that they get it over and done with quickly. And their night of passion isn't exactly the stuff love songs are made of. She lays the eggs, he fertilises them, then they both drop dead. But most other animals prefer not to have sex just once in their life. Shrews and other small mammals live life in the fast lane. Like rock stars, they live fast, die young, and have hundreds of kids. Having a litter may be normal for the shrews of this world, but humans usually have only one baby at a time. We're among the most infertile animals on Earth. Even though there are 6 billion of us on the planet, getting pregnant is surprisingly difficult. Men toil around the clock to make 12 million sperm a day. But women can only be bothered to release 1 egg a month, and even then the egg's only fertile for 3 days. The odds of getting pregnant are pretty slim. There may be a huge amount of sperm, but the egg presents a very small target. In fact, it's all quite a hit-and-miss affair. One look at the CERN giant gives us a good idea what he was used for. In the past, humans may have prayed to him to have children, but history doesn't record whether the visits actually worked. Now, thanks to the wonders of science, we understand the mechanics of getting pregnant. Using microscopic methods to matchmake, scientists reveal how tricky the introduction between sperm and egg can be. But it's not just us. Some animals have problems too. Like many big cats, cheetahs are in decline in the wild, and technology has provided a helping syringe to inject new life into the species. Koalas have also been helped in this way. And of course, the panda is the world's best-known bad breeder. Experts at the San Diego Zoo have started a panda sperm and egg dating agency.
You want to try to put an adapter on and just...
They're using modern methods to overcome the panda's natural coyness towards coitus. With artificial insemination, the experts may well save the panda from extinction. But for most animals, getting pregnant is easy and natural. Well, as natural as being taken over by something that inhabits your body, controls your movements and makes you eat non-stop. You are what you eat. And in the case of a newly conceived mammal, you are what your mum eats. Craving particular foods is the baby's way of making its needs known. If it needs calcium, then the mother might have an overwhelming urge to eat more cheese. But with bananas? Chocolate and cabbage combo is unlikely to be a hit on a menu, but it provides a delectable medley of fat and vitamins, essential for growth. The baby is demanding nutrition, and the mother can be driven to impulsive behaviour. At times like these, it helps to have an understanding partner. The result of all this gorging is fat. The bum, hips and belly expand to protect the baby. It's very functional, but not very fashionable. To us, this ancient fertility figure may be no centrefold, but 25,000 years ago, man celebrated the link between fat and fertility. Because big women have big, healthy babies, and big babies have a better chance of survival than small ones. But fat dads make good parents too. The emperor penguin almost never sets foot on land. It spends its life off the ice continent of Antarctica. As winter begins, the female lays her single egg. The egg's gingerly passed over to her mate, who puts it under a flap of skin called a brood patch. The female then rushes off to the open water before he can change his mind. A winter of fun beckons, and the males shuffle together in pods for protection against the -40-degree temperatures. Throughout the long, dark Antarctic winter, the male emperor penguin heroically battles the elements with an egg on his feet every minute of the time. To drop or expose it means certain death to the embryo. Then the females, sleek, glossy and smug, come tobogganing across the ice to rescue and relieve their weary mates. And the dads can go back to using their feet as feet and not nests. Humans may think they've reached the top of the evolutionary tree, but like all animals, they still need to prepare for the baby's arrival. But it's made a little easier. We have special shops to help as we panic and stumble through the nesting process. Everything that a parent could want, and more. A bewildering array of products that humans have to have. And it makes you wonder how the rest of the animal world manages without. In contrast to our behaviour, animals nest using whatever's around them. For most birds, that's a twig or two, or a hole in a tree. In many bird species, male and females take turns sitting on the egg, but not hornbills. The female finds a suitable tree hole and starts to plaster up the entrance using her beak as a trowel. The male offers his help, but she generally ignores him, preferring to gather her own mud and droppings. A tiny opening's left, and when safely ensconced in her dung-sealed domain, she incubates her eggs. Her mate attends to her needs, fanatically bringing her food every day for the next few weeks. The female takes advantage of her incarceration by molting her feathers and slumps about naked inside her tree. Then when she's got her figure back, she breaks free from the hole. and the chicks reseal the nest until they fledge. Whether you're a hornbill or a human, preparing for the big day is a serious business. And each and every nest is prepared with love. The parents may be working hard to prepare for the baby's arrival, but the baby's doing its own bit too, by growing.
I'll just show you baby's face there because it's come up well. And you can see little baby's hand here. Yeah.
Humans check on the baby's development using techniques such as ultrasound.
Baby's face. So you can see his forehead here.
We've stolen this technology off dolphins, who use it to navigate around their underwater world and fish for food. They bounce sound waves off objects such as rocks, sharks, and camera crews, and the echo they receive back provides a sound picture. Their ultrasound gives them superpowers, X-ray vision. It's thought that dolphins can detect when an animal's pregnant and can see the baby inside. Ultrasound provides a 3D peek inside the womb and checks on the health of the unborn child. Humans can also see if they're having a boy or a girl. As yet, we have little control over choosing the sex of our offspring, but in the natural world, some animals are ahead of the game. For some reptiles, like turtles, alligators and crocodiles, the sex of their offspring isn't fixed at conception. Female American alligators build nest mounds of mud and vegetation and lay a batch of eggs. The mother can ensure that most of the eggs hatch as males simply by locating her nest in a warm spot. But if she climbs ashore and lays her eggs in a shadier area, they develop into females. But that's not the end of the mother's involvement. Parental care's rare in reptiles, but alligators are an exception to the rule. The mother alligator keeps a beady eye on her nest, and when the time comes, helps her babies hatch. Mum then gently scoops up the hatchlings in her ample jaws and carries them down to the river for their first swim. Not many animals catch a sight of the world from these jaws of death, unless it's their last. Few will mess with this mother, and such formidable protection ensures a healthy start for her young. Despite our advanced understanding of the birth process, when it comes to the crunch, it's still a very tense time for both the male and the female of the species. The human female is particularly vocal during delivery.
Yes.
Okay, just have to breath now. Right, open your mouth, nice and wide. Big breath in each time, and out through your nose. That's it.
By contrast, the male is confused, helpless, and probably nauseous.
And again.
Humans aren't the only animals who employ midwives during delivery, but only the human ones wear these cute little blue uniforms.
Have a little breather. Well done. Okay. Slow your breathing right
For
through.
us, it's a high-tech business with monitors to,
Okay.
well, monitor things, and drugs to take away the pain. But human males have it easy in comparison to the seahorse. When it comes to being a father, there's no animal quite like the seahorse. It's Dad who gets pregnant, the only male animal stupid enough to do so. The female places her eggs in the gullible male's pouch, then promptly scarpers, leaving him literally holding the babies. After several weeks, tiny sea foals emerge one by one to float in an oceanic nursery. They're fed from secretions in their father's pouch until they're old enough to find food for themselves. And despite the father's constant attempts to get back in touch with the mother, she never returns his calls. For the rest of us in the animal world, the normal rules apply, and it's the females who do all the hard work. Animals find the nearest hole in a tree, a burrow underground, or even the middle of a field. Because we've made such a fuss about birth and surrounded it with machines that go ping, there's been a backlash. Natural birthing is the latest fashion. If you can afford to hire a small swimming pool, you can give birth underwater. It's supposed to be better for the baby and more comfortable for the mother. It may also save on swimming lessons, and there's a lifeguard on hand if the youngster gets into trouble. If you happen to be an elephant, you can still have a midwife, but you won't get the swimming pool. Midwives are common where animals are large-bodied and live in tightly knit social groups. Elephant families are dominated by the fairer sex. The matriarch rules a clan of her female relatives. This sisterhood sticks together through thick and thin, although the concept of thin is somewhat lost on these enormous cows. Older females in the family help young, inexperienced mothers-to-be by providing care and support through the pregnancy, birth, and the raising of the young. In elephant life, midwives are exclusively female. Males play no part in assisting the birth of a baby.
That's it. Well done. Sounds like you're nearly there now. Good. Big deep breath. That's it. Well done. Good.
For humans too, when it comes to the big moment, the man's a bit of a spare part.
And again.
All he can do is hold her hand and quietly panic.
Well done. Good.
In the sanitised world of the modern delivery room, the mechanics of birth are left to the mother and the midwife.
Contraction gone. Good. Has that pain gone? Yeah. Good. Good. Well done.
By comparison, the marmoset male is truly a new man. Marmoset males are on standby to help their mates through the birth and beyond. One baby has already been born and another is on its way. Most monkeys give birth to single young, but marmosets generally have twins. After the second twin appears, the female contracts again and the afterbirth flops out. As the female sits exhausted, the male chews through the delicious umbilical cord and tucks into the placenta. It may be a messy start, but helping at the birth is just the beginning of the male's role in parenting for their babies. Maybe new man has a thing or two to learn from the marmosette. Babies hold a magnetic appeal for adults of many species. We're attracted to those infantile traits, small, cuddly, soft and vulnerable. And being so cute is essential if you want adults to take care of you. Babies put their parents under a spell. They need care 24 hours a day. And the parents are programmed to provide it. But it isn't a one-way arrangement. The baby may need its parents, but both parents have a vested interest in making sure that their offspring survives. The baby offers its parents a chance of ensuring that their genes live on. So taking care of baby is a joint effort. But sometimes Dad isn't around, and mothers have to rely on hired help to look after the baby. Sharing motherly duties isn't unique to the human world. Wet nurses and even day care centres have long been employed by other animals. Social insects like bees are the experts at providing daycare in the animal world. The queen bee sets up a birth monopoly by sending out pheromones, a chemical royal decree banning egg-laying among her servants. Then she throws herself into an egg-laying frenzy. Although eggs are laid in great numbers, it's the quality of the care they receive that enables them to survive. Workers find food, tidy up the hive and look after the babies in an oversized nursery. The all-female workers are closely related to their queen, so they have a vested interest in the health of the hive. Males act as foreign bodies and serve only as flying sperm donors before they die. The secret of the bee's success is down to the most efficient and dedicated daycare in the world. Sharing caring duties is comparatively uncommon in mammals. But in some mammal species, recruiting mother's little helpers is a way of life. Having so many young can be a pawful, and many mammals use nurseries and babysitters to look after the kids. Some species suckle and tend the children in a communal breeding system, but the cooperation isn't always voluntary. Pack animals like these wild dogs are led by a dominant female and male. Only the alpha female is allowed to reproduce, and unrelated lower-ranking females are coerced into the role of wet nurse. The currency that keeps these nurseries together is lactation. Mammals are identified as a class of animals simply because of the odd milk-secreting glands that develop in only half of their members. One rare fruit bat is the sole exception to the role of lactation being exclusively female. With their big litters of fast-growing, costly young, dwarf mongooses are models of communal breeding. These mongoose supermothers use nursemaids to spare their nipples while suckling so many young. But in this case, the females are related. The subordinates act so much like real mothers that they spontaneously lactate. Mammals that pursue the Milky Way have an advantage. Infants can have their food on tap, so they don't have to compete with adults, and can be left so mother can go out to forage and restock milk supplies. This dairy lifestyle works so well for mammals that the experts say, and you know they're usually right, that we succeeded where the dinosaurs failed simply because breast is best. But the award for serial breeding and suckling in the mammal world has to go to a marsupial mammal, the kangaroo. Kangaroos and wallabies, like all marsupials, give birth to tiny young that develop outside the womb. To adapt to the unpredictable conditions, kangaroos have evolved a milk production line to cater for infants of different ages. While the tiny joey is attached to a nipple producing semi-skimmed milk, another nipple produces full-fat milk for the older, more active joey hopping about beside the mother. In a hostile environment, always having a baby up your pipeline is a shrewd strategy. In the Antarctic, Weddell seals produce high-fat milk for different reasons. These seals give birth on precarious ice floes. Their pups need to develop fast to avoid predators and survive in their freezing icy playpen. So milk has to be delivered in a hurry. The mother hoards blubber in advance of birth and then feeds her nursing offspring pure cream. The result is seal pups that grow quickly, so that if the fragile nurseries crack apart, they have a better chance of surviving. For many animals, the milk of kindness is truly mother's milk. Breastfeeding has led to the evolution of a hormone which acts as a natural sedative, providing a postnatal pain-numbing euphoria. It's possible that this hormone, called oxytocin, is also passed on in breast milk, giving a feeling of peace and bonding for the mother and the baby. But with a distinct lack of milking equipment, how do males bond? Caring instincts can be found in male primates, and bonding is a necessary first step. Human males can bond by proudly showing off the fruit of their loins. But what makes a good dad in the rest of the animal world? Baboon mums live in multi-male troops. The males have no idea whose kid is whose, so they adopt a contingency plan. They stay in touch with former girlfriends and protect them and their babies from males intent on trouble. Grooming helps males to bond and feel like dad, even though they probably aren't, and also helps to keep on the mother's good side. Baboon males can also be surprisingly patient when rudely harassed by curious youngsters. babysitting and playing with the nippers is a good way to bond too. Male gorillas grow huge and sport a silver back to advertise dominance and control of a harem of females. So a silverback male can be certain the infants that surround him are his own, and can spend time being an affectionate and indulgent big daddy. Even when the young ape's playful antics are driving him to distraction. But the award for the most attentive and playful dad goes to the black-tailed prairie dog. The black-tailed prairie dog is a rodent that gets its name from the strange barking sound it makes when it detects an enemy, and through having a black tail. Prairie dog towns are made up of over 1,000 individuals divided into clans. Prairie dog pups are treated like royalty. Pups demand constant attention, and no little prince is ignored. Prairie dogs are very active fathers, playing with and grooming the pups just as much as the mothers do. But some males play little or no part in parenting, and can even be dangerous. A lion pride is usually composed of a dominant male, perhaps one or two younger males, and a number of closely related females and their young. The females share the males and do most of the hunting. With such closely bonded females, lion cubs can cadge milk from more than one mother. The males spend most of their time lying around, their only parental contribution being to protect the pride and put up with annoying youngsters. But with so many mothers around and a father close by, lion cubs are positively besieged by parent figures. Some animals take no part in parenting. Are they bad parents, lazy, or just very clever? Many frog mothers just lay their eggs and leave. The embryos are on their own. Sadly, they'll never experience the loving care and protection of a big, ugly frog, and will have to survive by using what legacy is left to them inside the egg. Most parents do everything they can to ensure their offspring's survival. But babies help themselves and their parents by being born with their own instincts to survive. Being newborn means you're vulnerable. All babies have natural reflexes that are used to cope with their precarious state. Recognising the person who takes care of you is top of the list. Young animals are programmed to seek attachment to a trusted figure. There's a crucial time just after birth when some young animals imprint on an adult. Goslings are programmed to attach to the first figure that looms before them. It's usually their mother, but the instinct is so strong that if the first figure they see is human, then that becomes mum. The gosling's best prospect for keeping safe is to stick close to mum and follow her everywhere, even when she's being silly. Wildebeest use a similar sheep mentality. They migrate vast distances over territory infected with predators. To stay alive in the wildebeest world means you have to follow the crowd and follow it quickly. Wildebeest calves can stand on their own 2 feet and can be running away from danger within minutes of being born. Unlike other antelopes, wildebeest have lost the instinct to hide. Instead, they are urged on by the impulse to follow. Primates aren't born runners, but do have some advantages. Hands to hold on with. Grasping in young apes is a vital reflex for clinging when being carried. For humans, it's a throwback to our ancient ancestors. A young primate's urge to cling to a familiar figure is a powerful force. Staying close to a caretaker is essential for your own survival and development. The larger you are and the longer lived you are means more time spent growing up and learning from adults. All apes develop slowly. But with their big heads and large brains, humans take the longest to mature. To cope with the inevitable squeeze through the birth canal, human babies are born earlier and so much more helpless than other primates. Unlike a wildebeest calf, humans don't know how to walk within minutes of being born. It takes time. First, they must learn to balance their weight. Mobility comes next with the advent of crawling. Just before a year old, human babies start to pull themselves upright. To take those first momentous steps. Walking on 2 legs is an important part of being human. It's one of the more obvious biological differences between humans and other apes. Once you're mobile, desires can be turned into actions. And these actions are expressed even more clearly by another development. Language. The use of language is an essential difference between humans and other animals.
You got one, Amber.
But that's not to say other creatures don't communicate.
That's a bit tall.
Sights, sounds and smells are used to great effect among animals to convey messages to friends and deal with enemies. There's another skill that's rare in the animal world. Self-awareness is thought to exist only in humans and possibly higher apes like chimpanzees. It's the ability to recognise yourself in a mirror, a key indicator of intelligence. Baboons may look intrigued by their reflection, but apparently they've no idea who's staring back at them. For human babies, self-recognition is a milestone in early development. And you can detect it as soon as the little darlings mention the words, "I want." Or fight over that vital toy. Most mammals play. It may be great fun, but it's got a serious purpose. It allows animals to test their strengths against peers and teaches valuable lessons about pecking order. Through play, a youngster can acquire the experience it may need in adulthood. Watching and imitating adults also helps to hone your skills. Young chimps learn how to use and make tools by observing adults and then practicing the skills themselves. For many animals, a parent's experience and knowledge is vital to its survival. Elephants, like humans, live on a long time after the birth of their children. Recent studies have shown that the older an elephant matriarch is, the more finely tuned her social skills are. And this is tied into the success of her family. And the old adage that an elephant never forgets holds a great deal of truth. The elephant grandmother remembers the location of vital resources. Her experience guides the group to find essential nutrients and water in times of need. Without this knowledge, the survival of the youngsters would be severely affected. As with all animals, the wisdom of the parents is passed on down the generations. Through their skills, their genes live on. To be a success in life is to be a successful parent. It's the only way to ensure immortality. Parents that are successful are those who've raised their babies, which not only means giving birth, but looking after them until they reach independence. As their children venture out into the big wide world, the successful parents can rest assured, having prepared their offspring for the long road ahead, to live their lives, avoid death, and hopefully meet a mate. The journey of life. A road ingrained with the footprints, hoof marks and flipper stains of every living creature on the planet. But how different are the journeys of mice and men, of wasp and crab? Once we're born, the race is on to find a mate and earn ourselves a little genetic immortality before it's all over. Each and every species on our planet has evolved a different way of travelling life's road. But the goal is always the same. And the crucial part is finding a mate. They say your wedding day should be the happiest day of your life, and in every culture and every continent, our species has a ceremony to celebrate the wondrous event. But are these two people marrying for love? Well, let's hope so. Whatever the reason, they're also marrying to breed.
It's a sign of harmony.
Making babies is what marriage is all about. And not just in our society or even our species. Marriage happens just as much in the natural world. Of course, animals don't bother with rings, dresses and fondue sets, but some of their ceremonies are just as elaborate and as curious as ours. Some marry for life, others just get it on and get out of it. There's a million different ways of finding Mr. or Mrs. Right, and most of them look like fun. It starts with a kiss. A tender, beautiful, loving kiss. And then it all gets a bit rude. But is the rudeness really necessary? Well, yes, it is if we want to reproduce. We all do what we have to do to ensure our genes make it into the next generation, even if that means commitment and marriage. The play between the sexes is eternal, and immortality is the prize. In order to have at least a chance of getting married, the male must first find someone to marry. The female, too, is preparing to mate. The male is in his den, puffing up his ego and preparing to display. Down on the mating ground, the competition is fierce. Special potions which make the mating process less stressful are quaffed liberally. As soon as the lubrication begins to take effect, males and females take part in the ritual dance of attraction. Finally, it's all too much for the male. He makes his move. First, he must make sure she's female. And he seems to have got that one right. Now he must fool her into thinking that he's the one. Animals have their own version of Saturday Night Fever. They dance, they display, but they can manage it without the aid of 5 pints of lager. Take the booby, for example. When it comes to breeding, the male booby has his work cut out. There are several species, and the male could easily make a serious booby by trying to mate with the wrong one. The secret is in the feet. This dance is his only hope of finding a female with the right coloured footwear. Having done so, he must impress her with his DIY skills. Could do with a bit of MDF and some throw cushions, but at least she knows he'll be handy about the nest. But when it comes to putting up metaphorical shelves, the bowerbird is the king of the hill. He constructs a complicated bower out of reed and spends days making it look pretty with soft furnishings. The best bower gets the best bird. Strangely, bowerbirds don't live in these nests or even rent them out. Pulling the chicks is the only use their building skills are put to. All that work just to get your wing over. Some males don't bother with domestic pleasantries. They're out to stun the females with sheer glamour. Hummingbirds are small but agile and put on an impressive flying display. The dazzled female looks on impressed. Encouraged, the male becomes ever more daredevil, with sometimes disastrous consequences. Male birds are the glamour boys of the animal world. They show off their brilliant plumage, fancy footwork, and advanced homemaking skills. Egged on by the females, fashion statements get quickly out of control. Extreme tails get longer and sweepier. Haircuts get wilder. And pouches get blobbier. Competition on the catwalk is fierce. There's no way you're going to stand out from the crowd unless you're wearing the latest designs. Glamour is everything. You can never be too shiny, too garish, or too beaky. It's all part of the wonderful world of animal marriage. The grebe walks on water to impress his female. And the Sarus crane performs a long dance of tortured love. These cranes dance at any time of year, leaping into the air and extending their wings. But their moves become more elaborate and intensify as a prelude to mating. It seems to work too, as Sarus cranes mate for life and are regarded as a symbol of marital bliss in the Far East. Most women like to shop, and in the world of deer, females have it down to a fine art. Cob females even shop for males. The males all group together in small areas called leks. Here they try their hardest to impress the females. They've been practicing for months, and now's their chance to really strut their stuff. The females browse for a while, looking for that special big value pack. The males make such an effort to impress because the prize is great. The glitziest, showiest males get almost all of the action. Sage grouse stage an intense contest of strength and beauty. In a highly ritualised display, the male rears back quickly, drawing his wings across his stiff feathers, producing a swishing sound, and makes a couple of extraordinary loud liquid plops that are amplified through his large yellow air sacs. This noisy display can be heard as much as 5 kilometres away. All this swishing and plopping drives the females mad with desire. But only one male in 100 reaches master cock status, and he'll mate with 500 frenzied female fans, 100 per night. And if he wilts, there's always another cock on hand. So why is glitz important to females? Well, which ram would you find most attractive? If you were another sheep, of course. Glitz is a sign of health. But an outrageously dressed animal singing and dancing about is as likely to get his head bitten off by a predator as he is to get a quick wriggle. He's also going to waste a lot of time. So in order to succeed despite these ludicrous risks, he must be altogether exceptional. And that's exactly what the females want. Good genes. The females only want healthy males to father their young, and so encourage the males to become ever more outrageous. Of course, many animals don't have shiny feathers and a natural sense of rhythm with which to impress the ladies. For these animals, size matters. Hippos have a yawning competition. The biggest mouth usually wins, but the one with the worst halitosis has a good shot too. The yawning can go on for hours and hours, causing both competitors to get more and more bored. This, of course, makes them yawn even more. Eventually, one will fall asleep and the other will claim the bride. For frogs, it's the biggest throat pouch that'll win the ladies' hearts. Grant's gazelles try to make themselves attractive by wearing flowers in their horns. This one won't turn any heads at Royal Ascot, but female gazelles are fortunately easier to impress. If you're not good-looking or big, don't worry. There's another way to score: mail order brides. Or sometimes showing a girl a good time can be enough to secure her affections. But if the theme park date doesn't work, you may end up having to act tough. In the human jungle, even hanging on to a mate can be a problem. Just watch what happens when this alpha male's back's turned. Perhaps this female will be easy to lure away from the older bloke. But oh no, the alpha male must assert his dominance to keep his female. The younger male retreats to avoid the possibility of physical conflict. The last thing he needs is a Mr. Whippy shoved down his throat. Grant's gazelles have a similar strategy. They perform a ritual of parallel walks to size each other up. If they look evenly matched, they knock horns to threaten their rivals. The ploughshare tortoise is a confused species. The males compete for females by trying to turn each other over with their ploughs. In their minds, the winner gets the girl and the happy couple plod laboriously into the sunset. But in reality, they're both losers. The females can't stand violence and leave them both lonely, exhausted, and eventually upside down. The upturning competition goes on for hours and hours. Strangely, the ploughshare tortoise isn't extinct. Yet. The desert tortoise, however, makes for all the more entertaining viewing. They are the tortoise equivalent of the WWF series. The loser concedes by shaking his foot in frustration. Sex is such a serious business. If the threats don't work, the girls like a hard man. And if the opponents are closely matched, the only choice left is a scrap. Males are adorned with all manner of sharp, pointy things and impressive blubber with which to knock each other senseless. Only the fittest will survive. Fighting's a dirty, dangerous business, and it just goes to show how desperate these guys are to get a gal. A day at the seaside's no picnic for elephant-nosed seals. Female elephant-nosed seals have to give birth on dry land, so once a year they make for the beach. Here they raise their young until they're old enough to look after themselves. The boys were already ashore spreading out their towels before the females had even arrived. Actually, they're doing what all ugly men do. They're fighting for females. If you're an elephant seal, sex can be a miserable business. You have to be at least 10 years old and bear at least 3 tons of quivering flesh to get your flipper over. Only 1 in 10 males will ever get the chance to mate. No wonder they look depressed. Life is definitely not a beach for the male elephant seal. In fact, trying to find a mate is a continual source of stress for most animals, so why bother at all? All the whiptail lizards in the world are female. They've disposed of males altogether. Males are more trouble than they're worth. They're nice as pie until they've had their oats, and then they're off, leaving the females to raise the young. Whiptails cut their losses and just clone themselves. So why does any female need a male? The clue lies with aphids. Ever wondered why one day there's no green fly and the next there's thousands of the little green suckers? During the summer, all aphids are females. Every 20 minutes, each aphid can produce a tiny replica of herself. This is a virgin birth. During the autumn, however, this system grinds to a halt and far fewer babies are produced. Aphids turn to sex, and every now and then a male is born. But why? Autumn is an unpredictable season. Food is far more scarce, and the weather turns towards winter. When conditions become unpredictable, sexual reproduction becomes an advantage. Sex means variable offspring, rather than just identical copies of mum. Some will survive better than others. Some may be suited to a mild autumn, others to the cold. In any case, some will survive. Mixed genes give a better hand in the lottery of life. OK, that may be fine for aphids, but they haven't got the miracles of medicine, supermarkets and central heating. Whatever you may think of your parents or offspring, sex is vital for larger and more complex animals like us to evolve. But whatever the reasons for sex, the quest for it is always the same. How do you attract a partner? And where do you go on a Saturday night? The problem with sex is always the same. Males want one thing, sex, and females want something else altogether, usually shoes. Why do the sexes seem to live on different planets?
And I've been vaccinated for ills anticipated, but now I'm acting crazy as a loon.
Men produce 12 million sperm every day. They can impregnate 40 women in one night. Women are born with about 300 eggs. And because it takes them 9 months to carry the baby and up to 20 years to look after it, they have to be much pickier than the men who they breed with. So when it comes to sex, men and women do it for different reasons. She wants the best of all possible fathers for her offspring. A nice motor is the human equivalent of a long, flashy tail, a symbol of power. This man might make a good father. Sadly, he's not the alpha male she first thought. He's just some bloke leaning on the real alpha male's car and, as always, looking for a mate. Today, he's out of luck. There's a subtle difference between marriage and monogamy. Most males and females only exchange telephone numbers with each other when they're breeding, and this is restricted to the few times of year when the female is in season. But during this time, they're totally dedicated to each other. Even popping out for groceries at all hours of the day. When we watch images like these, we tend to assume that there's something more than just sex going on, a real affection between males and females. Perhaps there is. The only difference between marriage and monogamy is the length of the relationship, which can last from a mere moment to a whole lifetime. Kingfishers are usually seasonally monogamous. Pair bonds are formed after the male establishes his territory. Secretary birds, though, pair for life. Each year, they return to the same nest, repairing and expanding it with the addition of more sticks or grass. Nests of up to 2 metres in width aren't uncommon. Animals just know when it's the right time to breed. They can sense it and smell it. Love is all around them. But in humans, there's a subtle difference. Men are always looking for young, healthy females to mother their young. They're always ready to breed. But unlike most other animals, men can't tell whether women are ovulating or not. This means that men can never be sure that a mating will result in a pregnancy. He'll have to brave it out for a few months if he wants to make sure that should the female become pregnant, he is the father. The longer he stays, the surer he is. Once you've selected your lovely lady and things are looking quite promising, it's time to attempt to mate. But how's a young male to know whether she's ready or not? Smell is a useful indicator of sexual state. Many males find that a bit of perfume often loosens the female up. Females, too, attract males by smell. These chemical attractants are called pheromones and act as an aphrodisiac to a sometimes reluctant female. The mountain dusty salamander also uses some low tactics to turn the female on. Special glands under his chin contain an aphrodisiac. He must draw blood to infect her, so he bites her on the neck. Once bitten, she's under his spell and will follow him wherever he goes. And that's not the only unpleasant surprise. Her unexpected new beau doesn't even have a penis. He just dumps his sperm on the ground and then leads her over it. When she's above it, her genital opening draws it in. Humans also give off pheromones. The nose is a shortcut to the most instinctual parts of the brain, and the male instinctively knows that smelling nice will help him achieve his goal. Females too have been known to give nature a helping hand. When a male becomes aroused, he begins to sweat. He secretes a chemical under his armpits, which the bacteria that live there convert to pheromones. Some females like a more basic smell. When the male guinea pig wants to mate, he sniffs the female's genitals. She generally rebuffs him and keeps doing so until he's finally had enough and decides to pass water on her. Strangely, this seems to be the key to her heart, and he finally gets to have his way with his beautiful, urine-sodden sweetheart. It's hard to sexually arouse a snail. Believe me, I've tried. They're hermaphrodites and could, in theory, have sex with themselves. However, they usually don't for fear of going blind. So instead, they've devised a pretty direct method of letting others know that they're up for it. When two snails meet, they fire an arrow of love into each other called a Cupid's dart. These chitinous darts pierce their body walls and usher in a night of slimy love action.
I feel your breath upon my face.
An alternative to perfume, aphrodisiacs and darts of snail juice is simply to give the lovely lady a gift. It's called bribery. Simple.
And I need you, girl. So, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Nothing to lose. No need to hide. It's just you and me, girl.
The female will eventually get the idea.
And love. I'm saving it all, the best for you. I'll give you anything you want me to. But nothing to
This spider is wrapping a gift of food in a silken parcel for the female he hopes to woo.
always be here waiting by your side.
This eagle tries a gift of snake,
There's no way back,
and this tern a gift of fish.
no way out. So read between the lines, there is
This cockatoo is regurgitating a romantic meal for two.
gotta keep doing it. Gotta keep pushing.
This roadrunner has missed the point entirely, and he's hanging on to his gift. Well, it's working like a carrot on a stick, and he can use it again later. Bargain. Sometimes all it takes is a bit of tender, loving care. Octopus females are notoriously nervous and won't consider sex unless they're calmed and then highly aroused. Fortunately, the male has 8 arms with which to tickle her fancy. He massages her until she shows vivid colour changes. But unbeknownst to her, one of the male's arms is actually his penis, which he slips into her when she's not looking. The human male has one extra string to his bow: love, which means commitment to the female. He demonstrates his undying love with romantic gestures and the pretense that he has an opinion about her new dress. Only this will ensure the female's willing cooperation in this rather distasteful set of affairs. animals, there's nothing embarrassing or funny about sex. It's just something that has to be done. They don't enjoy it at all. Honest. Sometimes it's all over in a couple of seconds. Sometimes it's more complicated, like for the elephant who has a penis with a mind of its own. It's a serious business, and to celebrate, we've compiled a list of the 5 greatest animal sex feats. Number 1, most times in succession. Flies beat their wings 500 times per second. They also have a hectic sex schedule, copulating in midair up to 100 times in a row. Number 2, most times in a day. Lions mate on the hour every hour for the 2 to 3 days that the female is in season. That's 72 times in 3 days. Number 3, most pregnant females in one night. Female Phascogalis all come into season together. The male bounds around doing it with every lady he meets. He impregnates 12 females per night and about 60 in total, then probably dies of exhaustion before he can brag to his mates. Number 4, biggest penis. If a barnacle was the same size as a man, his penis would be the size of Nelson's column. Barnacles can't move, so their penises do. And finally, number 5, most flamboyant penis. Cockroaches have 7 penises varying in shape and size. They mate well into the night using their Swiss Army tools to delight the female. Safe sex takes on an altogether different meaning for many animals. The male tarantula must creep up to the female to avoid startling her. The tarantula female has poison fangs, and she really doesn't like males. He must try to hold her fangs out of the way. And then he must reach forward with his sperm-laden palps to her genital paw, which is right under her belly. Hardly the most relaxing of nights in. She still manages to bite him, though, before he has the chance to run off. Spiders are prepared for dangerous sex, but the male scorpion is made to look a right mug. It all seems to be going so well. The lovers stand on their heads, entwine tails, embrace, and dance long into the night. They finally retire to a hole to make passionate love. By morning, the female has killed and eaten him. Rough date. At the other extreme, some animals can't get enough sex. The usually priggish Calicebus monkeys celebrate the mating season with a free-for-all. Usually, these monkeys do their best to avoid one another, but once a year, all the females come into season and the population's thrown into a sexual frenzy. But as soon as the mating season's over, it's back to a lonely, chaste existence. Garter snakes spend all winter holed up in hibernation. Once spring breaks, it's a free-for-all. The female exudes a scent which attracts the males to her. Up to 100 at a time roll around in a frenzied, writhing, snaky mating ball. Snails too can be surprisingly saucy. Being both sexes, mud snails line up and all mate with the snail in front of them in a slimy sex conga. Not a party trick to show your grandmother. In fact, snails have managed to save a lot of bickering by being both male and female at the same time. The hamlet fish also manages to keep out of trouble with the clever use of transsexuality. Other animals gender bend simply when the time's most convenient. Blue-headed wrasse are all born female. Only the biggest females turn into males, and they keep the rest in a huge fishy harem. When the biggest male dies, the next biggest female is promoted. So blue-headed wrasse have the best of both worlds. As young females, they regularly spawn, and as males, they are prolific and sensitive lovers. Another way of beating the system is universal: infidelity. Here follows a twisted tale of deception and intrigue. The Mojave desert lizards have different coloured throats. The blue-throated lizard heroically defends a termite-infested territory for his female. But he's in constant danger of being cuckolded by the oversexed orange-throated lizard, who scurries between territories trying to seduce the female and bully the blue-throats who aren't as hard or aggressive. Then there's the yellow-throated lizard, an androgynous little sneak who looks like a female but is really a male. He gets his end away while the other two are fighting. Sneakiness can be a very successful male trait, and often the female isn't averse to it either. Humans too aren't averse to temptation. "25% of men admit to having had an extramarital affair, and 15% of children aren't fathered by their supposed biological father. Males can never be certain that they're the father of their partner's offspring. Coyote males are sure, though. They and other members of the dog family not only have a bone in their penis to maintain lengthy erections, but during mating, their penis swells up inside the female so that the male is unable to withdraw for sometimes up to an hour. This can be very distressing for the inexperienced couple. Once the male's scored, it's just possible he'll do the honourable thing. Not all males are such cads. Sometimes it's the female that does the running. It's the male seahorse that gets pregnant, not the female. Once he's pregnant, you won't see her for plankton. The general rule, though, is that Dad skips town, unless the kids are going to need a lot of looking after. If they are, then monogamy is the answer. the most famous monogamists are humans. One man, one woman. However, plenty of other animals favour this approach. Although only 3% of mammals are monogamous, 90% of birds are. One of the most dedicated relationships in the world is that of the hornbill. Hornbill couples are completely devoted to each other. When it's time for the young couple to start a nest, they search for a suitable hole in a tree. The male then helps wedge her in and covers the entrance to the hole with mud, leaving only a beak-sized gap. The female cares for her young in this hole, and the male brings food to his young family. They're trapped in the tree and are completely dependent upon the male, who's surprisingly reliable. When the chicks are old enough to look after themselves, he helps his wife to break out of her beak-infested prison. Monogamy helps to keep families together. Gibbon families all have their own territories. During the day, the male goes off to defend his patch, leaving the females and young to forage. The family keeps in constant contact by calling to each other throughout the day. Her song tells the male where she is so that he can return and check that they're okay. But among the most dedicated of couples is the waved albatross. The young pair first hook up as 5-year-olds at a seabird dance. After a whirlwind romance, they go their separate ways. But a year later, they're back, and this time, they're an item. They set up home and finally start a family. Such a dedicated degree of monogamy is needed because the chick takes a year to grow. During this time, the partners take turns to fly out to sea to gather food for the family. They're gone for weeks at a time, but always return. Among humans too, monogamy means more than sex. Marriage is about friendship, partnership, and matching cagoules. Anyway, they all lived happily ever after. Probably. The journey of life. A road ingrained with the footprints, hoof marks and flipper stains of every living creature on the planet. But how different are the journeys of mice and men, of wasp and crab? Once we're born, the race is on to find a mate and earn ourselves a little genetic immortality before it's all over. Each and every species on our planet has evolved a different way of travelling life's road. But the goal's always the same. And it all ends in death. We're all gonna die! What I mean is, we're all going to die. That's one of the few certainties in life. Without fail, undeniably, categorically, one day it'll all come to an end. So why are we afraid of dying? It's not really something to get all hot and bothered about, more something to get cold and stiff about. In fact, it's so predictable that it's not even remotely scary. There is absolutely nothing frightening about death at all. Death is always with us. Most of us like to pretend he's not there, but people die, animals die, cabbages die. That's life. So enjoy yourself. You may just be over your shoulder, but relax, it's the same for every living thing on our planet. We're all in it together. So sit back, enjoy the view. There are certain things we can do to cheat death, at least for a while anyway. Although death's inevitable, Janet and John know that keeping fit and eating well will give them the best chance of a long life. But death is a patient soul. In waiting games, the immortal always win. In the War of the Wild, the most common way for an animal to cheat death is to avoid becoming something else's lunch. One of the best ways of doing this is by camouflage. Animals have taught us the art of camouflage. Don't get seen and you won't get eaten. We haven't quite mastered this art. Hiding may seem like the coward's option, but it's one of the most successful strategies. Many animals have become masters of disguise. Insects are generally the best at pretending to be something else. More often than not, they choose to look like plants. This is a surefire way of avoiding being eaten. No self-respecting carnivore would ever dream of eating salad. But they don't always get it right. This insect has disguised himself as an insect, not quite grasping the concept. When you scan the menu in your favourite restaurant, the dish called bird dropping is seldom a popular choice, which is lucky for this caterpillar of the swallowtail butterfly. The less appetising you make yourself look, the less likely you are to be eaten. This white fluff looks fairly unappetising, but it's actually made up of tiny white flatted bugs. Their feathery coating makes them look like tiny flowers. In a big clump, they look like a flowering plant. It's only on closer inspection that we can see their eyes. They don't die and get eaten, but they often end up in flower arrangements. But it's not just insects that have perfected this art. This young batfish spends its time in the shallows of the mangrove forests in coastal Africa. It drifts with the debris undetected, disguised as a dead mangrove leaf. A young triple-tailed fish also uses the same plan. By swimming on its side, it perfects the deception, and it's also able to keep a lookout above and below at the same time. Birds too have gone down the road of deception. This tawny frogmouth looks exactly like the broken end of a dead branch. In fact, it was filmed completely by accident. We sent the camera crew out to make a film about dead branches, and they came back with this. Camouflage works best if you stay close to home and blend in. But death keeps the odds in his favour by unfairly changing the scenery. As the seasons change, so must the camouflage. The rock ptarmigan lives in northern climes, where half the year the ground is covered by snow. So in winter, it sheds its feathers and changes colour from brown to white. But the predators have caught on to this plan too. It's very difficult to spot the ptarmigan against the snow, but the Arctic fox has a keen eye and nose. So only when the ptarmigan move do they give themselves away. Arctic hares also change their coats in winter. But unless they change their attire every day, they'll be out of step with the latest spring fashions. They'll stand out a mile, and this is bad news. With a white coat, it's fairly suicidal to make a run over dark ground. Death could come on swift wings for the badly dressed hare. Death misses his chance this time. But the master of the quick change is undoubtedly the squid. Squid and octopus can change colour instantly. They can do this because they have special cells in their skin called chromatophores. The chromatophores work by allowing different colour layers within the skin to be seen. This squid is snuggling down into a lovely gravelly duvet until only its eyes are showing. He gets a double benefit from camouflage. He avoids death and his predators, and he also hides from his prey. Of course, there are other methods of avoiding death. It's not all about hide and seek. Some good old-fashioned armour usually does the job. This is a pangolin, one of the weirdest looking creatures on the African plains. But looking this absurd has its advantages when it comes to cheating death. These young hyenas like the idea of pangolin pie, but the horny crust is impossible to penetrate. All the pangolin has to do is curl up in a ball and wait. The razor-sharp scales can contract to crush a soft paw or a nose. These young hyenas are unsure what to make of the pangolin. All they want to do is eat it, but they're unlikely ever to succeed. Eventually, the hyenas give up and the pangolin moves off. His audience of confused hyenas look on. The crab goes one better than the pangolin. It has armour and also some formidable weapons. Vervet monkeys are partial to crab. This monkey's no fool. He knows the big crab may nip, so it's spared. But the monkey still gets his meal. He simply eats the kids. The sun is out, the sky is blue, and death is always closer than you think. But remember, death will always try to ruin your day if he possibly can. We all come close to death on a daily basis. But it doesn't always go his way. There are many close shaves and lucky escapes. Cheetahs are the sleek killing machines of the plains. They're the fastest cats in the world, and they need to be. With muscular hindquarters, long legs, and a tail for stability, cheetahs are built for running. It's lunchtime, and as usual, it's Thompson's gazelle on the menu. The cheetah can reach speeds of up to 100 kilometres per hour. but it can only maintain this for a short period of time, and usually if it's running in a straight line. The gazelle can't run as fast, but it's great at dodging and weaving. It's a pretty evenly matched contest. Cheetahs may be the fastest land animals on Earth, but they can still have difficulty catching their food. This time, both Death and the cheetah have been cheated. Cheetahs may be born to hunt, but they need to practice too. Once a cheetah catches up with the gazelle, it extends a paw to trip it, causing it to tumble. Good training by mum, but the real thing can be much more dangerous. This Grant's gazelle is not about to become a cheetah's lunch. One of these horns in the cheetah's side could be fatal, and both the cheetah and the gazelle have had lucky escapes. Since the invention of the movies, Hollywood has used the drama of the cliffhanger to keep us glued to the screen. But close shaves like this are nothing compared to the dramas of the wild. Wildebeest are not exactly the most intelligent animals on the African grasslands. However, they must be doing something right, as there are literally millions of them living there. Every year, when the Serengeti's rainy season ends, the wildebeest begin their annual migration. They travel more than 2,500 kilometres in search of food and water. Are we nearly there yet, Mum? These long treks are thirsty work, and at the end of the day, large herds of wildebeest congregate at waterholes to drink and be eaten by crocodiles. The wildebeest are either so stupid or so thirsty that they're oblivious to the danger. By doing a very convincing impression of a dead tree, the crocs can get really close before they're spotted. Their faces are designed so that only their eyes and the tips of their nostrils are visible. But the crocs don't get it all their own way. They'll be back, and like Death himself, they've learnt the art of being patient. Death is always waiting, and he keeps himself busy with odd jobs. There's always plenty of grass to kill, and sooner or later he knows he'll get a new customer. But even Death doesn't know who's next. Life's a lottery, and there's no way of calculating the odds. Sometimes the outcome isn't as predictable as we might first think. This wolf has come across a brown hare in the meadow. This should generally be a foregone conclusion, as hare is often on the menu for wolves. However, this hare has really confused the wolf. In some predators, the instinct to chase and kill is only triggered when the prey starts to run away. The wolf can't understand why this hare isn't running. This is a very unusual situation. The hare has stood his ground, and he and the wolf have come to a standoff. Neither animal knows what to do next. The hare puts up a brave battle, but eventually fear gets the better of him, and he makes a run for it. Animals that escape from the jaws of death are heroes, and we all cheer on the underdog. Or in this case, the underhog. A lion versus a baby warthog? An unfair contest in anyone's book. But the warthog isn't prepared to be eaten just yet. Unbelievably, this plucky little boar takes on the king of beasts. He puts up a brave fight, and although he appears to be a bit shaken and possibly injured, he cheats death, at least for now. For all animals, killing and eating is an instinct. But show a tiger a menu and he wouldn't know what to do. It all has to fit in with a pattern. If it doesn't, then confusion reigns. This hibernating mouse has unwittingly been disturbed by a wolf. It wouldn't normally be running across the snow in broad daylight, and its appearance has surprised this wolf. The mouse is lucky. The wolf isn't seriously trying to eat it. It's in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the wolf's confused. It treats the mouse more like a toy than a meal. There's no party for the mouse, but under normal circumstances it would be dead by now. Eventually the mouse makes his escape, and the wolf is left as confused as ever. A lucky break for the mouse, but the wolf wants his toy back. As a general rule, death is the winner. And if you're dumb enough to wrestle a lion, you should expect the worst. When we die, he celebrates. If we kick the bucket, pop our clogs, croak it or pass on, death calls for champagne. There's 1,001 ways to die, but dying after sex seems like the cruelest. For us, the idea of dying after sex is a tragedy. But imagine dying after your first time. Disaster. Salmon that don't end up in tins on the supermarket shelf return to spawn in the rivers where they were born. They often make journeys of many hundreds of kilometres to do this. Their journey can take them several days. After struggling upstream, they're exhausted before they arrive. In fact, they're already dying. Sockeye salmon turn from a silvery blue colour to bright red, and the males develop large hooked jaws. They'll need these to defend their territory. The female digs a nest hole and the male guards it. The best sites are fiercely contested, and fighting with jealous fish will take up most of the male's remaining energy. Finally, the eggs are abandoned in the nest site. The adult's gone, the eggs are left to mature, and the tiny hatchlings will have to fend for themselves. The effort of spawning has taken away any last remaining energy that the salmon had. Their job done, they simply fade away, their genes living on in the next generation. In the depths of the ocean, the female octopus makes a similar sacrifice. After mating, she finds a suitable den to lay her eggs. She produces thousands of eggs and fixes them to her den roof. Siphoning water over them keeps them clean and aerated. Tending her eggs with her tentacles, she guards them 24 hours a day. During her vigil, she's got no time to eat, and by the time her babies hatch, she'll have run out of energy and will die within hours of their birth. The tiny octopus hatchlings are then left to fend for themselves. Just imagine having death creeping up whenever you're, well, you know. But humans have sex for fun as well as for making babies, something death has overlooked. So relax, it's official. Humans don't die after sex. Adult turtles are also unlikely to die after sex, but they do get turned into soup and harassed by sharks, even the pregnant ones. No wonder they're exhausted when they finally make it up the beach. But their kids don't have it so easy. Death likes them young and tender. After incubating in the warm sand, the hatchlings all surface at the same time. Instinctively, the baby turtles head for the open ocean, some with more ease than others. Turtles produce lots of babies in order to increase the chances that some of them will make it to adulthood. Young animals are particularly vulnerable to death. Most of these turtles will die in the first few weeks, days, or even hours of their lives. Death picks on the vulnerable, and the oceans are full of danger. This young albatross hasn't learned to fly, an easy target for the tiger shark. The albatross may be an easy target, but they're not always an easy meal. Unaware of the shark's deadly reputation, the plucky young albatross fights back, a strategy that sometimes works. A very good time to learn to fly, this young bird just makes it to adulthood. So if you're an albatross, or even a humble pigeon, don't trust death. You may have survived sex and birth, but death has some specialities up his sleeve, ways of dying that you haven't even dreamt of. This mist is carbon dioxide produced by a nearby volcano. Visible during the cold dawn, it becomes invisible in the heat of the day. Attracted by the carcass in the hollow, the palm nut vulture is expecting an easy meal. The carbon dioxide from the volcano has entered the bloodstream of the vulture and is slowly poisoning it. Not long after it lands in the hollow, it's having difficulty breathing. It gasps for oxygen. The deadly gas continues to seep from the volcano. By morning, death has claimed his next victim. Some animals drink themselves to death. The Australian outback is home to thousands of kangaroos. They've roamed this deserted area for millions of years. It's now also home to thousands of cows, kept on huge ranches fenced in by farmers. The problem for the kangaroos is that the ranches have been built over some of their traditional watering holes. If they want to drink, they have to cross the fence line. Water is vital in this dry land, and the kangaroos come to drink almost every day. While many of them negotiate the fences successfully, inevitably, there are casualties. Whenever the worlds of animals and man overlap, death is often the winner, and man his unwitting accomplice. This grey whale has drowned caught up in a fishing net. It's sad when animals are the accidental victims of human activity. Death wins and the gulls clear up. By far the biggest challenge that Death has come up with is the weather. Changing seasons mean that animals have to survive through extremes of temperature, rainfall and wind. Out on the African plains, the weather can be cruel. For the old, sick or weak animals, it's the end of the line. When the rain fails, often death succeeds. Rivers can shrink and even dry up completely. But if you're mean and ugly and weigh 2 tons, no one argues about who gets the pool. These hippos have found the only remains of a river for miles. Hippos need to stay in water to protect their hairless skin from the strong African sun. They normally live in herds spaced out in large pools, but when the river starts shrinking, the hippos are forced to get too close for comfort. But it's going to get much worse. Imagine having to share your pool with 10,000 catfish. Now, I know people who would pay good money for a face pack like this, but for the hippos, it's hell. Then even more of the water dries up, the catfish start turning into baked fish, and the hippos just cling to life. Eventually, the mud bath turns into a mud oven, and death has won again. But as always with Africa, it's feast or famine, drought or flood. The rivers will fill once more and flow to the sea. When strong winds whip the seas into a violent frenzy, the animals living beneath really are in deep water. These swimming crabs usually live out at sea. A storm has washed them in. They're so perfectly adapted for swimming that their legs are useless on land. Washed up on the shore, this large shoal will be unable to return to the sea. Lying on the beach, they can't survive in the heat. They'll die here in the sun. But it's not all bad news. Where one animal loses, another gains. This monitor lizard has smelled the tantalising aroma of dying crabs. Not difficult, really. He's now enjoying a gourmet day out at the beach. No ice creams for him. Animals eating animals is expected, but death is a master of the unexpected. The Venus flytrap works by trapping unsuspecting insects and then digesting them with plant juices. Or at least, that's the plan. These plants can live in areas with poor soil, since they get their nutrients from animals. It may take a long time, but when it does eventually catch a fly, there really is no escape. A slow and embarrassing death for the fly. Killing isn't just about eating, and death has given the animals lots of reasons to kill one another. Fortunately, as humans, we very rarely have fatal conflicts over mates. This red deer stag is defending his right to mate, and he's prepared to fight to the death for it. He uses his large antlers to fight off rival males during the rutting season. Females stay in herds, and they'll mate with the strongest male. If he wants to leave many copies of his genes, he'll have to fight for it. The antlers can inflict fatal wounds, and these are intense battles. By the time the rutting season ends, many of the older males will have exhausted themselves fighting and mating. They often don't survive the following winter. Think tortoise, think deadly fighting machine. No. But male tortoises regularly fight for the right to breed. When a tortoise lands on its back, the race is on to right itself before the sun becomes baking hot. The victor in these contests stands by laughing as his victim slowly bakes to death. Sun-dried tortoise. Could catch on. Male lions live in bachelor groups until they're strong enough to take over a pride. The group will oust the old males and take control. When this happens, the first thing they want to do is mate with the females, producing cubs containing their own genes. Females won't breed while they're still suckling young cubs, and so the new male lions will kill the existing cubs to bring the females back into season. Cruel and wasteful may be, but the males can't waste time looking after a pride of another male's offspring. Death precedes new life. The new cubs will be looked after by newer, stronger males. The death of their brothers and sisters has given them the best possible chance of survival. We've all heard the expression survival of the fittest, and death really puts this to the test with disease. We treat disease, and in the Western world, a high percentage of us survive serious illness every day, but not so in the animal kingdom. Jackals scavenge for food across the grasslands of Africa. Social animals, they have close contact with other members of their pack. When life is good, they spend time playing, reinforcing the bonds within their family unit. But diseases are common on the plains, particularly rabies. Unwittingly, the jackals will pass the rabies from one to another. In this way, when one member of a family gets the disease, it's likely the whole pack will die. When animals die, death isn't the only victor. The scavenger will always profit from death. Every corpse is essentially a gold mine. For vultures and undertakers alike. Vultures are the true undertakers of the plains. Without them, the Serengeti would be covered in half-eaten corpses. Not a pretty sight. They collect in large groups, waiting for the bigger predators to finish their meal. Jackals, hyenas and vultures all thrive on death, and corpses are such sought-after commodities that invariably squabbles break out. Vultures are beautifully designed for stripping a carcass. They've got bald heads which they can stick deep inside the corpse without getting unsightly blood on their feathers. They also have very sharp pointed beaks, which means that no bone is left unpicked. In North America, wolves are the top predators. They're pack animals, and they work as a coordinated team when hunting. This is especially important during the winter, when food can be hard to come by. When the wolves do make a kill, it must be shared out among the pack, and there are a lot of hungry mouths to feed. Ravens are members of the crow family. They're very intelligent birds, and they've earned themselves reputations for being mischievous. Their striking black colour and curious ways have meant that through history they've become associated with darkness and sometimes death itself. Legend has it that a raven's favourite food is the body of a dead man. Ravens are frequently found near a wolf kill. Naturally, the wolves aren't that keen on sharing their hard work, so they try to defend the carcass even after they're too full to eat any more. But the clever ravens will be back. Maggots are probably among the world's most hated sights, yet they're essential. Along with bacteria, they decompose the very last remains of a body, which is just as well, as otherwise the surface of our planet would be covered in corpses. Although we certainly don't like to think of maggots eating our bodies, they do. So deal with it, or get cremated. And we can gain some satisfaction knowing that maggots are invariably eaten by something else too. In this case, it's the lucky toad that gets the tasty maggot snack. However, one of the startling ways that we differ from animals is in how we deal with death. Most creatures don't recognise death in the sad way that humans do, which is probably just as well, or scenes like this would be commonplace. This lion is part of a scientific study, and she has a very sick cub. She tries to help it and carries it around, hoping to revive it. She's obviously very worried about the cub, but doesn't know what to do about it. It's clear that she recognises that something is very wrong. Her natural instincts are telling her not to abandon her cub. But this cub will die. It's very sick and stands no chance out here on the plains. Eventually, the mother lion leaves her cub. She's got no choice. Hidden among the rocks and grass, she has 3 more cubs who need her to look after them. If any of her offspring are to stand a chance to make it to adulthood, she can't spend her time mourning her dead cub. The laws of nature dictate that survival of the fittest means just that. These other cubs could very well grow up to be the fittest of them all. As always, death and life go hand in hand. In the Arctic, polar bears spend the long winter hidden beneath the snow, and mother will give birth to cubs in her den. In springtime, the cubs get their first chance to stretch their legs and play in the soft snow. But the Arctic is a harsh environment. Animals need to be in full health to survive here, and many don't. Polar bears usually have 2 cubs at once after a 4-month pregnancy. The more time and care invested in a child, the harder it is to accept its death. The cubs would normally stay with their mother for up to 2.5 years, learning all the tricks needed to survive. This mother will now put all her energy into her one remaining cub. Elephants are among the very few animal species which are known to actually mourn the death of a family member. Elephants live in close family groups. If a member of the family is sick, they'll all take turns at trying to save it. The baby represents a large investment for the herd, and so all the other elephants will try for hours to make it get up and walk. Months and even years after an elephant has died, the other family members will return to the site of death and appear to mourn. A stillness descends over the group, and they linger at the sight of the bones, sniffing them, picking them up and touching them. They don't do this with the bones of any other species, only elephant bones. The elephants unquestionably recognise that this is one of their species. Long-lived, it may actually be true to say an elephant never forgets. Elephants are among very few animal species which recognise death, but we can't say if they really understand it. Mankind is the only species which has developed so many rituals surrounding death. We feel the need to say goodbye to our dead and to find a way to remember them. Funerals help us to do this. Rituals surrounding burial and remembrance take different forms in different cultures. The Piaroa Indians of Venezuela bury their dead in this rock face. They return several times during the year to remember those who have gone before. They'll spend time remembering their ancestors and will stop to rest and eat while they do so. What better to make a snack than some tasty roasted tarantula? Nice. Could do with some salt. And for those irritating bits of meat that get stuck between the teeth, a fang makes the ideal toothpick. Our last hope for immortality lies in the memories of those who knew us. We leave gravestones that will survive long after living memory has faded, but they too will eventually fade and become unreadable. In the end, we're like all other species. All we really leave behind are our genes. While we might not like the thought of what happens to our bodies, death has plans for our souls too. Whether we believe in the afterlife or not, we're all generally agreed on one thing: that heaven would be infinitely nicer than hell, particularly if we're to be there for eternity. Hell, of course, we're told, is a place of eternal fire and torment. But let's be honest, we've actually been a little hard on Death. Death has a function, which he performs very well. Congratulations. Without death, evolution couldn't happen. Over time, weak species have become extinct, and newer, stronger plants and animals have evolved and taken their place. And it's all thanks to death. Death is an absolutely vital part of our world. Without him, humans would never have evolved. It's easy to forget, but the history of our planet is one full of violent geological events. Over millions of years, these events have shaped the planet and all that live on it. Large-scale catastrophes and climate change have been responsible for the extinction of hundreds of thousands of species. The animals that couldn't adapt didn't make it. Fossils are the gravestones of all those species which have gone before. But one species' catastrophe is another's lucky break. That's how evolution works. As one insect, fish, or bird dies out, space is created for a new one to evolve. When volcanoes erupt and continents drift apart, whole species of animals can be wiped out. The survivors are those with the most adaptable genes. The Nautilus has existed unchanged for 500 million years. It ruled the oceans before, during and after the dinosaurs walked the planet. The Nautilus is a relative of the octopus, and it lives in deep water during the day. At night, it swims to the surface to feed. The Nautilus is a true survivor. So the next time you swat a fly or watch a funeral go by, remember that death isn't a tragedy, it's a necessity. It's life and death that drive our world. You can't have one without the other. In a funny kind of way, death is directly responsible for the spectacular variety of creatures on Earth. Immortality may sound like an attractive option, but it really wouldn't work. So raise a glass to death, evolution, and our wonderful, wonderful